Good morning, Scott. How you doing? This is a, a tool that you've developed that you're going to share with us today for coaches that will help them steward their responsibility with their players. For a lot of us, sometimes it's hard to keep track of what we've done, what we've not done, and how to develop people. And you've come up with a tool to kind of help us. And we're going to make this available for all the coaches. So I'm going to let Scott tell you why he created the tool, and then he's going to go through it and explain it to us. I'm pretty excited about this, and this will be an excellent tool for you to use. This is not mandatory to use, but you can use it. I think it would be very helpful in your stewardship of your players. So, Scott, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And
I hope you're doing.
I'm going to give you the floor.
All right. Well, I hope you're having a great morning over there. We're here in South Asia, and what you're looking at right now is something that I developed to help me. By nature, I'm actually a little bit more relaxed and I'm less always on the ball and making sure I'm doing everything purposefully. And so for me, I need something sometimes to help me keep on track with what I actually do want to do, instead of just doing the things like making sure that I'm doing high value activities is something that I really have to push myself to do. And so I have a son right here who wants to hang out with me. But so what you're looking at right now was something that I developed in a particular situation with my current player, Eric. And what I found is that I had certain things that I wanted to make sure that I modeled for him. And I wanted to communicate that to him. And so I needed some way to be able to say, hey, these are the things that I'm going to make sure that you have somebody model for you, me or somebody else. And I want you to recognize that these are the things that are going to come up in our coaching player relationship, so that they then have an expectation of what I'm going to provide, and I have an expectation of what I need to organize and what I need to focus on, so that I can get to the end point, which is making sure that they are I'm multiplying into them what they will need to be able to step into being a healthy, successful person on the field who can do all the different things that we need to do. So a lot of times.
So to begin with, you're clarifying the communication between you and him on what the expectation is, because a lot of times that's unclear a lot of times with coaches and players. So this form not only will help you keep track of what you're doing, but it'll actually clarify for them what they're to do. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I've actually had 6, maybe 7 supervisors in my 8 years. So sometimes I know that it can be a little uneven. You're unsure of what exactly the relationship will be. And so, yeah, communication being the best element of how we can make sure that we're on the same page. This, again, I don't have a problem, and this might be a tool that some people find that they don't need, because they just are always focused, always making sure that they get all these things done. Right. But for me, I thrive on relationships. I thrive on being with people and in that moment and not thinking about all the different responsibilities that I have. And so sometimes I can overlook the things that I do need to get to and get done. And then at the end of the day, or at the end of that period, I can look back and say, I really wanted to get to this and I did it. And so this tool for me was a way in which I'm like, what are all the things that I do? And what are all the things that I want them to be able to do? Because if I say, hey, that's just a good guy or a good girl, let's give them this partner to work with, or let's send them out over here. Well, how do I know that they're going to be successful over there? I mean, I can't really know, but I do want to put them in the best position so that I'm not expecting them to do something that I haven't actually made a disciple in. I haven't actually modeled for them. I haven't actually put them in a position to see somebody else doing what I'm expecting them to do. And so the first part on here that you'll see is something that I would think is got to be in every single person's individualized learning plan. And that's what I'm kind of calling this, more of like it can be Eric and Sabrina, who are the people that are players with me. They're going to have different looking individualized learning plans, because it'll be in consultation with that individual, but also with what you see as the endpoint of what they will be able to do and what they'll be able to be focused on. So if you look at the first one, which is non-negotiable, which is field work, and this just means you're going to do these things in front of them before we expect them to do it, which is sharing the gospel. We have to be able to take people out and do that in front of them before we expect them to do it. And then the 3/3 group, and this is not 3/3 as in like I'm doing a coaching session with 3/3, but this is an in the field reproducing 3/3 group that they get to go and see that's working, that's getting to multiplication, because that's what all of us want to get to with our partners. We want to see partner churches, partners, individuals, and the people that they're leading going out and sharing the gospel, learning how to disciple that, and learning how to reproduce groups. So that one's non-negotiable.
So
That would be one.
There are some contexts where some people are in that are 0 to 1 that don't have the 3/3 group yet to be able to go out and see. So, but everyone can go out and share the gospel.
Yeah, I think you're very right, and I might have to switch microphone to another one because it says battery low. But what I would say is that if I can't provide that piece, I should find some way so they can get a good picture of it.
Good.
Whether it be in another context where they can at least see that, to know at least what the goal looks like, to see a work in progress, so that they would be able to say, hey, in my particular people group, there's not an active 3/3 group, but where is there one? And how could I put them in position to at least see it modeled for them, so that I'm not, again, expecting them to do something that they've never seen happen. And then they'll pick up more clues from that in-person field work watching than they would from me just talking about it in terms of the idealistic. Because there's going to be problems in that 3/3 groups. There's going to be successes. And so I would say that as a coach, it's putting that, if I can't shoot a 3-pointer, I got to get somebody who can shoot a 3-pointer to teach you how to do that, if that makes sense. Now, and maybe that might not be possible. Maybe you're the only 2 people in your area. But then maybe when they go back to another bigger city close by, maybe they can then just step in, at least see it in that context, even if it's not in their context. But this is, again, sharing the gospel. Yeah, everybody will be able to do that because everybody's surrounded by lost people. But 3/3 groups, even in my setting, we have to find where's one that's actually we want the target to look as close to what we want it to be as possible, so that we're not showing an unhealthy example and saying, hey, this is what we want you to do, because we don't want to reproduce that. But even that's better than nothing.
That's right. Good.
Also, so what I brainstormed with is, what are some other things that we as personnel know how to do that people coming out don't necessarily know how to do? And I'm going to switch to just regular computer audio. So if you look at some of the different options here, we have one as admin work, top right. Now that one is one that, I think maybe at FPO you get some of this, but sometimes you don't know how to do it. How do I do my ASAP guided? How do I do an expense report? How do I get Teams on my phone, get Teams, and how do I use the Microsoft? How do I look at a pay slip? Some things like that. That can be real simple, but it's something that if people don't know, if nobody's shown them, it can be very difficult to get that done. So that's just that's one that I added in that I just thought, if I was expecting my wife to do this stuff, I would have to model it for her because I do all that stuff. And so I think there's sometimes people that come out that don't have that. And then we also have, go ahead.
We often give people the big vision. We give them the tools, and we forget about some of these smaller things that we think are smaller things, but these admin things that actually kind of give people fits. And to be able to kind of say, hey, do you know how to do an expense report? Do you know how to do these sort of things? And being able to at least guide them to somebody who would know how to do it, because no one's coming to me probably for those things, but I could find somebody who's really good at it. And so those are really practical ways that we could help our players for sure.
Yeah, I think even just knowing what the guided process means, what do you do with that info? Well, who does it go to? Maybe they've heard about it, but hearing from their supervisor, their coach, it's going to be the best situation for them to know and trust that this is not something that's just to catch them, but it's something to empower and help them be successful. But yeah, expense reports, I think you can identify, everybody can identify when you've had 3 and 4 and 5 month backups in expense reports, right? Have you ever had that?
Not anymore, but I used to.
Yeah, me too. I think now I do them really quick, but there was times where it would just pile up and it just become a big burden. And that's another thing that we just don't want to create a situation where our players just feel burdened. And they have the knowledge and the ability to do it. So just doing your expense report right in front of them. This is what I click on. This is what I do. It's not that hard. Here, let's let you do it. This is how I have Teams on my computer. Oh, I don't know how to put it on my computer. Let's email them and find out, how do we put it on your computer? How do I look at a payslip if I need to know stuff? Working around, just like you said, these are little things, but they can add up if you don't know how to accomplish them. Sorry, I'm working from home, so my 2-year-old is a bit upset that he's not out here with me. I'll move on to the next one. Networking is one that I have a lot, but maybe a lot of contexts would not have this, especially if you're in a 0 to 1. But in our city, a mega city, we have lots of different churches, lots of different pastors that I'm hoping to work with sometime, and even mobilizing different teams to be able to engage and go out with these. And so how do you network? Maybe somebody had a background in another career, but a lot of people don't know how to network. What is it like to be able to offer value to a pastor? How do you communicate that without sounding arrogant? How do you communicate that in a humble way? How do you find out their number? How do you schedule a meeting? And then how do you schedule out a rollout of how I'm going to train and be in it with you? Some of those things are really important in my context. And so for somebody like Eric, I want him to be able to own that and be able to do it with confidence and be able to do it in a way that just creates more and more opportunities for multiplication of churches and disciples. So if I'm doing that with him, or if somebody's doing it in another mega city where there's a lot of different ministries, or even just being able to network with potential partners in an area, there's got to be a way in which we're passing on that ability, passing on the know-how to how do you communicate with a pastor? What scriptures do you use? How do you give them a big vision? How do you first listen to their vision? And then what do you find appropriate when you organize trainings? Like, what's the time duration? What are you asking for a commitment? How to be focused? There's just a lot of things. And if we're not intentional, we'll always seem like they can't do it without us. And that's not the goal at all. We want to empower them and get them feeling that they can accomplish it without us. So that's why I put that one there for me. It might not be in every context. Again, this is something that anybody can create. You can just go in and change the title, change the different parts of it.
Can I just give ask for some clarifying questions? Because I think other people would be thinking the same thing I'm thinking right now. So first of all, MAL means model, assist, watch, leave, or letter, as Paul did. You would be putting, and that's sort of what you're using as your basis of this. And then at the same time, in those boxes, you're putting the date that you modeled it, the date that you assisted, and the date that you watched, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, all
right.
That's correct.
Good.
Clarify some of these, like for a reference. How do I get a reference for a new pastor? I would just bring Eric with me, show him how I do that. Or if I have references already, I could just give them to him like that. But what I want to show in each one of these areas is that I'm intentionally showing him how I accomplish what I accomplish, and then like you said, writing down the date that I did that. And I want him to agree that he saw that. Since I've shown this individualized plan to him, and it's kind of a commitment upon me to do that with him, then he would recognize that was accomplished, and I would recognize it was accomplished. It wouldn't just be one-sided thinking that, like, unilaterally I would decide, yeah, he's got all that.
Yeah.
But that he would say, I would recognize that he got it. So, like, if we did this one time with a meeting, and then we just scheduled with the church that like Eric goes to, and Jesse came with me. And actually Jesse was the one who, because he had a relationship with this pastor as well. Jesse kind of ran most of the meeting and the scheduled rollout. I helped out. Eric was there. So again, it's not about me providing all the modeling for every single component. It's about using your team if you have a team, and being able to just show them. Sometimes it'd be good for them to see somebody else do it as well. But so the next time we do it with a new partner, I would have Eric do it again, like you said, model, assist, and watch. I didn't put the leave because you're not going to write a date that you left. Yeah. But if I wanted him to be the leader on the next one. So the next time we have a partner, I would have him in the room and him being the main communicator, and then I would assist as needed, and then I'd write down the date on that. So again, each one of these steps is something that like you said, you verify the date, and it's an agreement that both of you that it was accomplished.
Great. Okay.
I'll move on to the training one. Again, I just kind of tried to be very vague so that it could fit. And then you can type in exactly what your tool is. You could, if this is the 411, you can just write in exactly what your tool is. Whatever it is that your entry in EV is, however you do follow-up, what your discipleship, if it's the booklet or, 7 commands, whatever it is, it's like you want to be able to say that these are the things I'm going to provide for you. So when these trainings in our city, we have different partners. I have people that are willing to do partnerships, but I don't have enough time personally. So if I have another teammate, like, oh yeah, this guy's great or this gal's great, let's send them over there. Well, let me think. Am I putting them into the position where they're like, oh, actually, I've done a lot of this, but I've actually never done a 411, or I've never done a 7 commands. So for me, it's very helpful because I do have a lot of different teammates here to know that, when I partner them up with somebody that again, I put them in position to succeed. So for me, this is a helpful tool cross team as well, and not just for my players. Sometimes I use this just to know that before I match somebody up in a new player coach relationship, that they've had the training and they've had the different field work. Again, you can kind of create your own categories. If there was something that you felt like in your 0 to 1 context, going out to a specific kind of village and doing a Luke 10, that's the thing, that's the thing that you want to accomplish. So not just sharing the gospel together, but like a village visit. What goes into that? The pre-planning, how do you choose? What you're going to do, who do you bring with you? What kind of translators? If you want your player to reproduce these things, then you can create something that you can just check off and make sure that you modeled it in front of them and didn't just plan it all behind and then invite them to the event, so that they are just almost like a participant and not an active person in making it happen. So then next time they can start to take the lead on organizing the translators, organizing where you're going to go, putting the itinerary together. For me, I don't do a lot of village visits, so I didn't have that on here. But I'm just trying to think in terms of what other coaches would encounter that they would want. So what we do have is teams.
You could add whatever you wanted. You could bring in and add as things as you wanted.
Right. It's tailored individually to whatever you would think that you want to accomplish. So the last one I put on, the last two, or one is teams. How do you have a team come from America? You have to do the communication up front, pre-work to get everything ready, and then hosting the team, and then also debrief. There's just different things that we know how to do, but people coming out, they don't know how to do it. And so I think that's just good to think through all the things that you want them to do, that you know how to do, and you're trying to pass off and disciple them to be able to accomplish. Last one was relationship. With my partners here and also with my players, I think about it in terms of, I have strong desire to have good relationship with people, but maybe some people are a little bit more, this tool wouldn't help them because they're so focused. But then sometimes in focusing, we maybe don't develop a deep relationship with people. So maybe you need to schedule in relationship. So with my partners, I want to have a regular meeting that's bi-weekly, weekly, however, and how do I run that? And then a trip, extra time, I think, with our people. Sometimes we have to know informally them, not just formally. So that if we have a partner that we've only ever been in trainings and in conferences, then we're kind of communicating that everything, this isn't like, that's how they would disciple the next people, is through formal situations and not informal, knowing just how they're doing, inviting them over, going out on a trip with them, spending that extra time. And so that's something that I want to do with both my players and then my partners here in the city. Again, this is just a very dynamic tool that anybody can use. It can be as short as long as you would like. It's just to help people organize themselves, communicate clearly with what they want to accomplish with their player, and then having that end goal in mind of being able to get them discipled into doing what they are going to be doing for success. So I think there's something that people might be thinking. What about language? I think the language system we have is so robust that I'm not looking, I personally, I don't have as many things for language on here. And also that slows down a lot of what you can model.
There are other tools that they're being held accountable for that part of their walk for sure. In these first year, let me do a little summarizing real quick from AAT's point of view. Which one is this won't be required. This is something that is helpful and something that you might want to employ and should employ if you're having struggle keeping track of how you're some people could just keep all those things in their head, like you said, but there's other people like you and me maybe who like we get stuck on one thing and we kind of need something to look back and say, hey, did we ever go over that? And so it's a voluntary thing. I wanted you to know that. Secondly, it's a stewardship tool. This is a tool of you developing your people, which is what we want, folks. We want people to be able to develop their players. That's part of the stewardship of being a supervisor. That's part of the stewardship of being a coach, is to develop your team and trying to, making leaders, making disciples. This will be available on the coaches team in teams. So you'll go on coaches team in general, and you'll go under files, and this will be there for you to use, and you will be able to adapt it to your context. And so that's really important as well. And secondly, the last thing I wanted to ask, I think it's a really important thing. It's something that for AAT, we have is a value for our team, and I think it's a value for us all, considering it's in our vision statement. How does this scale for nationals? Can we hand this tool to a nationals that they get to actually steward their team this way? And I think we can. What do you say to that, Scott?
Exactly. I've started doing this with one of my partners as well, thinking through. Sometimes it's easy to fill up my time with good stuff. I don't know if you've ever had that, where you just, oh, we did it, and you feel good about it. You're like, oh, that was a good time with them. But where am I going? And so that's, again, I've used this with my partner as well, because I want to model all the different things that I'm expecting of him as well. So, yeah, I think it's perfectly in line. Whoever your player is, whether it's national or you put partner, if that makes more sense.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the admin work might be their maps. It might be their 3-year plan, or it might be something like that. It's not going to be pay slips and ASAP guide, but but you adapt it to what you want to adapt it to.
It could be like receipts for the stuff, like for a training that they put on for you. So yeah, there is some part of that, and again, I think for me, I've had to walk through like, well, how do I help him get a reference? How do I help him develop new people outside of his church structure, so that he can get into these relationships? And it's been good. It helps them think in a way like we are, like that L4 leader, the leader who's training outside of their networks that they're not getting personal benefit from. And so, yeah, I think that you can create it for any scenario, and that it would be helpful. We're so busy. I think that's the thing. All of us are so busy that for me to be able to keep in my head the 3 partners, the player, my own work, to keep all those checklists in my head is impossible for me. So for me, I need something like this, or else I'm not going to know if I was able to do that. I'll have to just remember it off the top of my head. And then I may just run over the same stuff and not actually get to the full breadth of stuff I'm trying to reproduce inside that person.
Amen. Yeah, that's. I think that's a good word. I think that's a good way for us to conclude. And is that this is a tool you guys could use. I think it would be very good in your stewarding your time and not just doing good things, but doing great things and doing the best thing. And so, Scott, thanks. You have any other concluding remarks before we go?
If somebody doesn't feel like they know how to do Excel like this, I'm going to put the Excel document on there. But maybe you don't feel like you would know how to do something like this. Just email me the categories that you would want, like the categories and the different things under it, and coach name and coach player, and I'll make it for you and send it to you.
Well, and Scott, you can put your email on the document itself so that when they open up that document, they'd be able to just click right onto your email. Would that be okay? Okay, great. Well, thanks so much. And thank your 2-year-old for giving us some excitement during the meeting. I thought it was pretty fun. That's our lives here, man. That's reality of what we have here. So that's I like it. Anyway, hey, again, this is going to be available on the coach's team, and under general, you'll find this, and you'll be able to access and use it. Use this video for a guide and how to use it. And then if you have any more questions, contact Scott or myself. And thank you, and have an awesome day, you guys. And we're going to stop recording right this minute. Blessings.